Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first roundtable talk of the Presence Posse for 2024. And today I have with me Dr. Fred Blum and Bobby Cobb, otherwise known as Cobby One, or Kobe One, you say actually. And I'm Miriam Siegel. And we are going to be talking to you today about presence and planning, which of course includes New Year's resolutions that we planned for and really didn't do anything about. Or maybe we didn't even plan. So I see you nodding, Bobby Cobb. Would you like to say anything to that?
Yes, I used to post a lot of things on Facebook, kind of mocking people who were making New Year's resolutions because of the fact that that's one bit of planning that's almost done with a, I wonder how long this will last type of energy. And then you bring that energy to your New Year's resolutions. It's no surprising that we're about 3 weeks away from the gym parking lot being clear again. And I also saw AI is into everything right now. And I saw this ad for a scheduling device, a calendar management system that is now using the power of AI. And it says, just use AI. Your calendar will literally create itself. And I had a little fun with that, just mentally thinking, hmm, that seems like the dumbest idea that I've ever heard in my life. I wonder what Chat GPT would have to say about that. So I actually asked Chat GPT, what do you think about the idea of letting AI manage my calendar for me? And I'll just read you bits of the response. But this is from Chat GPT. It started off saying, "Oh, for the love of algorithmic efficiency, let me express my vehement opposition to the absurdity of using AI to plan your calendar. It's like trusting your daily agenda to a toaster with more processing power." So even AI itself thinks that's just a crazy idea. And if, as I think about that, I think, well, of course it can efficiently schedule all of these tasks that I think that I might want to do or need to do. But then you're only going to become a taskmaster. And, if we pull the curtain back, we just, as the Presence Posse, spent some time talking about what changes do we need to make? How is this going? How can we be more effective? And we're getting present and getting real with ourselves as the posse and thinking, the way that we do it, I think, is the way that it should be done. We're asking ourselves, what do we want out of this? What does this mean? What are the good things that we're getting out of it right now? And it's not all about just achieving a goal. So I I believe, and it'll be interesting to see how this conversation unfolds, that as we invite more of the power of presence into our lives, we can not only become more efficient, we can become significantly more effective, but more importantly, we can live our life more in harmony with our inner guidance. Because I can tell you on my own calendar, there's a lot of time for thinking. I've got blocks on every day where I spend just like, how are things going? How do I feel? What does source or inner wisdom or my inner guru want of me today? What does the world want of me today? And I think we can maybe flip the script a little bit compared to the way people have been conditioned to think about planning, because those New Year's resolutions that never make it out of January, That's just a response to our conditioning that we're robotically doing it because that's what we do at this time of year. And I think we can do better.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting description, robotically doing, because it's something you do. The idea of these traditions that happen every year, the holidays, there are things that we just sort of automatically do. We eat the same food, and very often the same people come, get together, and we count down to New Year's, 10, 9, 8, whatever. There are just these set things we do, and we don't necessarily reflect on, do we even want to be doing this anymore? um, but we make these sort of resolutions often based on a pain point, right? I don't want to be this person anymore, or I don't want to be living in this way anymore, as a reaction to something, not necessarily as a well reflected, this is how I want to live my life. And how am I actually going to make that happen? And what is the reason why? Why do I want to live my life like that? Is it a reaction, or is it something that I'm actually putting into place to make my life, I don't know if you want to say, better or something? So the idea of planning has in it an essence of presence in order for it to be real, or to put it that way, right planning. Otherwise, it just becomes a thing that we throw out, like, that doesn't really have any substance or real substance to it, if you know what I mean by that. And I think then
Yeah.
it's easier to fall off the wagon then, because we haven't really thought it through and we haven't made any actual concrete plans, strategies, steps to make this happen.
Yeah. And thinking about those rituals that we do, you can choose to do them just because that's the way that's what we've always done. Or you can do that little bit of inquiry that you talked about to say, hey, is this really even something that I want to continue doing? And if the answer to that is yes, then can you bring a little bit more energy rather than, just going by rote and eating turkey because that's what you eat every year?
Fred, you want
So
to add something?
yeah, so there's a couple of things as you guys have both been speaking that have occurred to me. I probably won't remember all of it, but one of them is like kind of this distinction of slowing down versus speeding up. The whole planning, it's like there's this doing, like we're speeding up. There's like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to create this year? All this kind of thing. And I mean, that's fine. I get it. But at the same time, kind of like I certainly heard Miriam pointing to, it's like if we first just slow down and think, what do we really want? And this, I mean, it's an opportunity, frankly, for some really good, deep inner work, because maybe your New Year's resolution is totally based on some image of yourself that isn't really who you want to be. Maybe it's just pure ego. I want to make this much more money. Well, why really do you want to make that much?
Yeah.
The money, or lose the weight, or whatever it is. So if we took the time to slow down and really think, like just sat with, and it's, look at, what is it, January 7th today, or 8th? So there's plenty of time to sit down and think, what, like, as Bobby talked about that inner wisdom, just like maybe do it as a meditation. What would 2024 look like if it was just whatever, the highest expression of my true self? That's language I like, if 20, did I say 2024, whatever year this is?
Get present, Fred.
I'm not much of a planner. Have you noticed? But, so there's that doing versus being dichotomy also. Like before we get into the doing, and we're not going to be effective in this world if we don't have some degree of a grasp on the doing part of
Mhm.
life. But a lot of New Year's resolutions, the way, it's a doing. It's like, okay, what am I going to do in 2024? How am I going to do it? Good. Those are important questions, but who are you being? It's like really what calls you from deep inside to do in this year, or, for that matter, maybe what am I not going to do in 2024?
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe it's about doing less as opposed to doing more.
Yep. I'm just going to throw out there for a second this idea of losing weight around the holidays. For a lot of people, they sort of include that as a resolution, and it's kind of a way that people used to beat themselves up sometimes, because we go into the holidays expecting to eat a lot. I mean, just generally speaking, there's lots of food and even lots of drinking for a lot of people. So that can be a thing. But what you do is you do all of that stuff that's part of the traditions. You eat sort of maybe big, fatty kind of meals. And then what do you do when you get to New Year's? You beat yourself up and say, oh, I've eaten too much, I've gotten fat, I have to lose weight, as a reaction to doing what we expect to do in the holidays, which is a normal part of the holidays, and not seeing that's what we're doing. It's like it's all sort of a set up
It's a
to
setup.
react and treat ourselves badly. Yeah. And instead of it's like, well, actually, I'm just doing what we do at the holidays. I know I'm going to eat more because there's more food and I'm going to be maybe not paying attention or whatever. And when I get back to normal, things will get back to normal. It's like I don't need to make it into a drama thing. It's just getting present to that's what happens this time of year. And even then asking, do I want that to happen? Do I want to be that? Do I want to be doing that this year? Do I really have to eat all that food? Even before we get there, but not just going through the road of the, oh yeah, I'm going to eat too much, then I'm going to hate myself, then I'm going to make a resolution to lose weight or quit drinking or whatever the heck it is, and then fall short of that even because even the goal to lose weight or stop drinking was unrealistic because I'm going to go down like, I don't know, 5 kilos in 5 days. It's not respecting ourselves and not being present to any kind of, it's not humanly possible. So hi, Malcolm. Now we have Malcolm Free with us.
How everybody going? There's a couple of things I want to touch on real quick before I was brought on. You guys was talking about slowing down, right? Slow down, you know what I'm saying? The thing is, right, everything in life has a process. There's a process to everything in life. And what everybody tries to do is they try to speed through the process. And you know, in that process of speeding through the process, right? Because you know the process takes time, the process takes money, the process takes prayer, the process takes a lot of different things. But right, you can't rush through the process, right? Because if you rush through the process of trying to lose weight, or you rush through the process of whatever it is you're trying to change about your life, you don't absorb what you need to absorb to actually live in that success. Right? Is if you think of a field of energy, if you think of a field of energy and you're running through this field of energy, you're not going to absorb any of that energy. All that energy is going to keep moving out of your way because of your pressure, right? Because of your presence. You feel me? But if you take it, I'm showing my age, right? It was a Three Stooges back in the day when man used to say, slowly I turn, inch by inch, step by step. And that's the process you have to go through, right? In order to turn things around, you can't just run it, right? You have to take it inch by inch, step by step, because every inch and every step is a lesson, right? That prepares you for whatever it is you're trying to do, right? I've had clients that come in and, say they want to lose, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, right? And you finally get to that point, but they're ill prepared to stay there, right? No matter how much training I've taught them, how much I try to tell them, like, yo, let's focus on the mental part of you as well, not just the weight. Let's focus on the mental part of you, right? And they don't get it. So when they do finally lose all this weight, next thing you know, they're starting to gain weight again, right? And that's what happens to these New Year's resolutions, right? Yes, the holidays, I'm going to eat. I don't care, right? I'm going to eat. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to eat hearty, right? But I already have a plan. I know that I'm going to eat, right? I plan to go home and eat, but I also plan for what's coming after that. So I don't get discouraged. I don't get upset because maybe, throughout this whole holiday, I may have gained an extra 10 pounds. I don't care because I already planned the next part of my process. But for that moment, I just want to be fat and happy. You know what I'm talking about? I just want to be fat and happy. You feel me? Let me have my fat and happy, right? Because I've already made a plan to get me back to norm, or saying, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, I'll stop talking here in a minute, but once again, right? Go through the process, step by inch, step by step, so you can learn, how to survive in your own success, right? And how to get beyond your own success. And the second part of this thing is you have to plan. If you plan to get fat, you got to plan to get back normal, right? If you plan to do whatever, right, you have to have what we call it in business. You know what I'm saying? We got to have an exit strategy. Right? So, just go through that process and keep that in mind as people go through the process. You have to go through the process. The process is going to be there. I don't care. There's nothing on earth that doesn't have a process. Nothing. You have to go through the process. And if you run through the process, you're not going to learn what you need to learn.
Brilliant. Would you guys say that when it comes to presence and planning, that there needs to be a certain presence in order to plan, and then a certain presence to the plan?
Well,
And then,
yeah, sorry, there's more. Go ahead.
no, I was just thinking about, as Malcolm was talking about the losing weight, we've been sort of mentioning losing weight. It's like, who am I going to be once I've lost the weight? Who am I going to be? Who am I planning to be then? So there's this sort of presence to planning, and then presence to the actual plan. Go ahead, Fred. You were going to say something.
Well, yeah, and that's I used the word being before, but I guess presence really is our brand, and that is the same word. I mean, it means basically the same thing. And so, yeah, like, so to bring presence to the whole process, to the idea of, what do I want to create as a plan, or whatever changes I want in 2024. But then, you got to keep bringing your presence. You have to, like, who you want to be. I want to be, the reason people often put the weight back on, as Malcolm points out, is because they're still a fat person in a thin person's body. They just haven't shifted who they're being. And so whatever the unconscious conditioning and the patterns and why ever we put that weight on in the first place, that part of us, which I broadly call the ego, just gets right back to work, rebuilding what it thinks is the right thing to do. So again, I mean, I think we all get it, that this is, there's inner work involved in this. And it's sometimes deep work to really get, it's not just like, okay, I'll give it a moment before, I'll take a breath before I make my New Year's resolutions. I mean, if you want to change your life in some real substantial way, it requires really settling down and taking a hard look at yourself. And I guess that's what we're here for, isn't it?
That part. That's the hard part, to really sit back and look at yourself and realize that you're lazy, right? To realize that, you have maybe some type of concerns or issue.
Yeah, maybe, you're scared, right?
Right. Which creates a fear, right? Mm-hmm. Which creates you to hum, just become this when you should be this, right? So that is one of the key factors, right, that people don't understand, is that they never want to face themselves. They good about talking about other people and what other people need to do and what other people need to, they good for that. But, right, to sit back and have the conversation with themselves, like, even I, I'm not different, right? Because I know it's certain things I need to do, right? But, I look at myself and I'm like, I'm all right. Right? That's how I've been all my life, right? But then how you've been all your life is why you are where you are. So you have to start the process of change in order to become different, right?
All your life is why you are where you are. That's a good line right there, Malcolm. I like that.
So
well done.
It's the process. Once again, we go back to the process, and a lot of people don't want to face themselves and the reality of who they are. And they also don't want to create another image of what they could be, right? Even though it's innate for us to always think my life could be better. I could be better, right? But to see us living that life is where that fear factor comes into place. What do I have to do to have that life? What do I have to do to have that, right? I gotta quit messing with my little fat friends. I got to quit messing with, you know what I'm saying, my little, you know what I'm saying, my drinking buddies in order to have that life. And they don't want to accept that. They don't want to deal with it.
Sometimes it involves hard choices externally, like who you're associating with. And sometimes it involves, like we say, a hard look inside at really, who am I in this conversation? It's a, it's,
if you deal with the person inside, deal
yeah.
with the person inside, the external stuff will go away on its own. You don't have to force nobody out of your life. You don't have to. Focus on the internal, right? And once you start focusing on the internal, you start growing internally, right? You're able to vibrate, you know what I'm saying, instead of out the front door, you're able to vibrate across the street, right? You know, so things become different for you. And the people that's around you now may not want to be around you then after that, right? Because you're too happy, you're too cheerful, you're too this, and you're too that, right? Maybe you become too determined to achieve the things that you want to achieve, and they don't want to be around. They'll leave you alone. You ain't got to tell them to leave. They'll leave on their own.
That's a good point.
I've actually had that happen where I have set a goal and it seemed like an honest goal at the time, and someone else set a similar goal and they achieved that goal and I didn't. And then when they did something that seemed counter to that goal, I was happy. Right? It would be like, okay, see, you're not going to succeed either, or you're not going to be able to keep it up, kind of thing. And then I could feel better. Like my ego was just, and I have to, it's a really human thing to do. It's like, okay, if I don't succeed, I don't want you to succeed. It's not coming from a very loving place. It's coming from a hurt place. And I think part of the planning that we have actually mentioned that. I'm actually going to remember to put my name up here because I keep forgetting to do that all the time.
There she is.
Where we're not, thank you, where we're not present to what's really going on with us. And we make all these plans. We think we're present. And we make plans, but they're actually reactions. And part of the way to know that they're reactions is when somebody else is doing well, what happens in us? And that was what I had to sort of take a look at. It's like, okay, I've made a similar goal to someone else. They have succeeded at it within a certain time frame, maybe faster than me. And I look at them and I feel jealous, for example. Or I want them to fail secretly under there because I'm evil or whatever. That's another reason to beat myself up. Instead of not doing any of that and just getting still, slow down, be with my own process and look at what really needs to happen so that I can realize being more of my true being and not measure myself based on someone else's success or failure in regards to making their own plans and succeeding with their plans.
It is hard.
And in the presence part of that exploration is such a beautiful way for us to really discover ourselves more. So if you've got something that your friend is succeeding and you're not, and you're jealous, that can lead to a really deep and wonderful exploration where you may discover, you know what, that was just something that I've been conditioned to believe. And I'll give you a good example of that. I work with financial advisors. 10 years ago, every new client that I worked with, their goal in working with me through the coaching was to get to be $1 million producer. That was like the elite status. It's a little bit more common now. It's more like 2 million. And in my conversations, my initial discovery conversations before they're even a client, I'll say, why do you want that? Because it's achievable. I mean, you can do that. Why do you want that? And I had a client about 2 weeks ago who responded back to me the most innocent but beautiful answer. She said, I don't know. Aren't I supposed to want that? And I mean, that just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, almost out of the mouth of babes. And I say, well, you can want that. And that can be a good goal, but is that what you want? And then I give a couple of examples of, I have a client who isn't doing anywhere near $1 million, doing about $500,000, but he works 3 hours a day. And people go, wow, how can you? Well, I'd rather have that. Screw the million. I can get this all done in 15 hours a week and still make that kind of money. Or I got another client who does most of his recruiting and teaching and selling and bonding and everything that he does client-wise on his fishing boat. And he used to be an inshore captain for fishing guide. And now he's a financial advisor who teaches people about investing through the metaphor of fishing. And he gets to do what he loves, and he's making like 10 times what he used to make when he was a guide. And the moment that we begin to explore, do I want that? Why do I want that? Do I really want that? Or is there something else? Now we get a little bit more in touch with our inner guidance and say, the big house. And I mean, my last 3 houses have been downsizing. And now I have an RV. So the next one will be even smaller. And so part of planning is getting really in touch with what it is that you want. And I think resistance can be a good tool for us to say, I know I should be doing this, but I'm really not wanting to do this. What's going on here? And that just may uncover some interesting answers that you come to find out you're pursuing a goal that's just been conditioned in you. It's not really anything that lights you up and gets you excited and, just greases the skis so that you can glide a little bit more effortlessly through the snow.
It's like, is the impetus to do something coming from outside of me or inside of me? And I'm thinking of you, Fred, because you talk often about true self. I wonder if the idea of getting present and making a plan, again, okay, outside or inside impetus, is it coming from ego or is it coming from presence, from my true self then? Is it an expression, if my action, my doing, is it an expression of my true self? Is it an expression of my being? And I think that's more, I'm actually going to go to you, Fred, and see what you have to say about that, because you often talk about true self in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, that's the core of it, because here's what I've found working with clients. There are people who are really good at achieving goals out there, in the doing part of it, and my experience working with clients over the past 10 years or so has been that if you set that goal and achieve that goal from the perspective of ego, it's not going to be that satisfying, or at least not for very long. And so then you're on to the next thing and the next thing. I call that more, better, or next. There's always something that you have to get to. And maybe this time for sure, it'll be the part that I'm finally missing, and I'll be happy, and I'll, feel good about myself. And, my third grade teacher will finally see that I didn't turn out to be a failure. That's like, there's so much of that in us. And slowing down is, step one, like we've really all been saying in one form or another. And as Malcolm pointed out, it's hard to slow down because we're scared of what we're going to see, which, by the way, I mean, at least in like the way I tend to work with clients and with myself really is like kind of the revelation that whatever you see, it's just not that big a deal, like if you see that you've been lazy, okay, great. I've been lazy, and then if you stick with that inquiry for a little while and you go, oh, well, if I'm lazy, that means I'm X, a loser or unworthy. Okay, good. So notice that for a little while. You can take it. It's not as impossible to be with these hidden parts of ourselves as sometimes we think they might be. And so the work, it doesn't require some kind of superhuman strength to get behind some of these old patterns and stories, limiting beliefs, whatever we call them, and just get honest with ourselves. Because once we see what's in the way, then we could begin to take steps towards unblocking it. But otherwise, boy, I tell you, it's just a hamster wheel to me.
I'm thinking about you, Malcolm. Yeah, I see you putting your hand up. I was going to ask you a question, but just go ahead and make your comment.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking from a neuro perspective, and I always think of you're our brain guy. This sort of habit, because I mean, a lot of this is really habits, right? We're talking about traditions and the holidays. They're really habits. The pathways that are strengthened in our brains, right? And then trying to create different, newer habits that are maybe healthier or more authentic, to put it that way, more from our true essence. The ability to resist in a positive way. I'm not talking about ego resist, but build new pathways does involve some sort of healthy resistance, one could say, right? Just not go to where the automatic pathway is the strongest, but to stand in our ground and turn towards something we, in our essence, want that's better for ourselves, not from an ego place, but from a being place. Did that make sense?
Yes. I mean, because the thing is, right, when it comes to, what we're talking about, right, we talked about resistance, right? We've talked about the ego. We've talked about, different aspects of that, right? But the problem is, where the problem stems from is not having a true definition of who we are at this moment, right? We know where we came from. We know how we used to be. We know, we know all of that. But a true definition of who we are right now in this moment, who are we, right? And then take that definition and create the definition of who you want to be, right? Create the definition of, with who you want to be. Right now, the objective is, what does it take for me to get from where I am to where I want to be as a person, right? Spiritually, mentally, physically, et cetera, right? And that part is going to meet resistance, right? Because of our habitual processing, right? Our habits, right? And what people try to do is they try to delete a habit, which is never going to happen. You're never going to delete a habit out of your brain. It's not going to happen, right? So what you have to do is establish a new thing and create a new habit that you deem more important than the old. Are y'all with me? Right?
Yeah, it's like has more value to you.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to have more understanding and more definition to this new one in order not to turn back to the old one, because that old one is a place of comfort, right? I'm used to being angry about certain things. I have a habit. I don't even care about it no more, right? When I was young, I used to care. I don't even care about it. I just have a habit of being mad about it. And then what I do is I turn around later on and be like, I don't even care about that. I don't even know what I got mad for, right? Because, but as we create new habits that outweigh these old habits and old ways, right? And then we start the process of creating a new us. But we have to find us first, who we are at this present, at this moment. This is who I am. I'm lazy, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that, right? Define it, right? Be honest with yourself and define it. And then from there, how do I get to this? This is where I want to be financially, spiritually, et cetera. Now, how do I get there? And now that's when you start generating your path, your golden path to get there, right? Now, once you get there, what's the next thing?
Because it's like, I know where I am, like having to know where I am, and then from a place of being and presence, knowing where I want to be, at least as clear as I can get in the now. And then, since we're talking about presence and planning, is to be present to the plan that we make to get us from one to the other, and present enough to stick with it. And if we fall off the trajectory, and have a plan or some sort of solution to get back on, right? And sometimes that part of that planning can be maybe getting support from people outside of us, or making plans to go walk the path along with someone. to keep yourself on and get yourself back on. And that helps. Reinforcement, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. It's possible to be and be reinforced by someone else to stick with the plan. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? When you generate a plan, right, it's a right brain function, right? It's your imagination of how you want things to be and how you want you to be and all this old kind of stuff. That's a right brain function, right? How lovely, how much she's going to love me, all that, right? So what you have to do is you have to include both sides of your brain. So now you have to get the information in front of you, the numbers, right? You know, the numbers and all these different information to fulfill this left brain, the left side of your brain, right? So now you have the imagination going on, right, which is going to run directly to your heart because you're going to fall in love with the idea of who you are, right, or who you could be, the possibilities, right? But you need these numbers over here. You need the numbers. You need to, you know what I'm saying? You need to be able to quantify, right? Is it even possible, numbers wise, right? Logically, is it even possible? Once you've done that, that's the beginning process of all the support you need. The support you need is here, right? You have to support yourself here, right? Here and in your gut before other people can start the process of supporting you, right? You have to generate the energy, right? And you can't do that if you're just stuck in your imagination about how wonderful it could be, right? So once you get the numbers to support it, you know, left brain, now it's a whole brain function to what you're trying to achieve in life. Am I good? Y'all good? I mean,
More of a holistic way of being rather than one or the other.
Right. And then if you never connect your heart to the situation, if you never fall in love with the dream, if you never fall in love with the vision, right? If you never fall in love with who you think you can become or who you define yourself as becoming, then it's also a stumbling block for you. Like you have to connect all that you are to what it is you want to be in order to get there.
So now we're talking about another really important point. Thank you, Facebook user. I wish we knew who said that. Logic.
It's actually not Rosalie this time because
Rosalie said hello before, though. Hi, Rosalie.
Hi, Rosalie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Because now it's like, you know, at least to my mind, once you get the being part, like you're really clear about what you're choosing for this new year. And I use that word very intentionally, that we choose to lose weight or we choose to make this much money. And so it's not hoping or wishing, you're choosing a certain outcome. And it's very conscious. And what Malcolm spoke about is so important is then the way you begin to imprint that onto your brain is with emotion, with that energy, you know. So there's a lot of teachings, and I think they're very valid, from Joe Dispenza to who knows what, that talks about just really visualizing and fully stepping into that choice. You know, you literally create the experience, the joy, the satisfaction of having this choice now. And I know, like, you know, Joe talks about cool stuff like literally shifting dimensions and stuff, like all kinds of quantum stuff that happens when you can if you can inhabit a new reality in your being, then in essence you're stepping into a parallel dimension where that new reality already exists. But that takes energy. Energy is the currency that moves us between levels, you know, and we have to actively step into it that way. It's not just, you know, I wrote it down and, you know, the rest is going to take care of itself.
Yeah, exactly. Wishful thinking.
That's right.
I just come in here for a second, and I actually had somebody tell me the story of I think he had an aunt or something, and she would bake. So she would follow the recipe. She put all the ingredients in the pan and put the pan in the oven. And she would say that, I won't mention the being, but a higher being would take care of it. But she didn't actually mix the thing together or do anything that would actually make the outcome successful. It was just put it all together and put it in the oven and then pray, or know that it would be taken care of. That doesn't. I mean, sometimes that works, but generally speaking, we tend to have to be part of the transaction somehow. And I just wanted to bring in this idea of this conscious choice to make a change of some kind. If you notice that you're not doing it, like you've made a choice, you're going to, we keep coming back to the losing weight. It could be anything, but we quit drinking, whatever, and you're not doing it. It doesn't mean you're an idiot, you're a louse, you're lazy, you're useless, you're a failure, all those things that you can tell yourself when you seem to not succeed at having set a goal and achieved the goal. It may be that you've chosen something that isn't right for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that can, or you're not ready for it yet. And that can be including quitting drinking or losing weight or getting a divorce or whatever. There may be something missing that you need to experience, or you need to know about, or you need to get present to before the goal can be achieved, or you need to adjust your trajectory. It wasn't quite that goal. It was another one on a similar path, but not quite that. So using the, to put it that way, lack of success, lack of the ability to achieve your goal as an indication that I need to look more closely at this. Let me take advantage of this opportunity to see myself more clearly. That can be an amazing gift, instead of beating ourselves up for something that actually might be right for us.
It's almost as though life is continually giving us the feedback that we need.
Gee,
Almost.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Inner GPS.
Almost as though we didn't have to like compete with life to get what we wanted. Like maybe we could actually partner with life or the universe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Go figure. Life working for us and not against us.
I know, it's a radical idea.
I think, Fred, you could actually drop the first 4 words.
Almost as though.
Yeah. Get rid of those.
It was funnier that
Then
way.
you
Though,
speak. Yeah,
It was funnier.
and it was a good setup for me. So I
yeah,
appreciate
there you go. I'll set them up. You knock them down, Bobby.
I tell people all the time, right? We put things out into the universe with a question mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So it comes back to us with a question mark, right? But if you put things out into the universe with a period, then it'll come back with a period, right?
That's a choice.
You know what I mean? It's a choice, right? So, you know what I'm talking about? So, and people understanding how the energy, works, vibration and all that work, right? Is, so you put it out into the universe with distinction. You put it out into the universe with a purpose and direction, right? You don't just, and then it'll come back, right? As you put it out, right? It's only going to send back the energy, right? And in that, and within that is wisdom. In that comes mercy. In that comes a bunch of different things, right? In order for you to move forward in your process.
I suspect most people also have had the experience of accomplishing a big task that you set yourself out for, and then looking back at it and noticing how many dead ends you went down that you needed to recorrect, and how many happy accidents occurred along the way. And many people have had the experience that it was through working with a completely different goal that got abandoned, that this new higher goal superseded it and captured all of your energy and attention and imagination and became the motivation. And it was like, oh, I get it. I had to spend all of that time on this highway just because that gave me access to the superhighway. And so if we are present as we're executing our goal, if we're present as we're getting clear, and our plan or our goal is coming from being, and it's not coming from ego. And then in the execution phase, when these obstacles come, we just get curious and go, that didn't go according to plan. What's going on now? Do I need more resources? Or is there something else that the universe is popping up that wants to lead me to do? And just every step of the way, you can constantly be calibrating. Is this still coming from being, or am I merely now going through the motions just because I made the commitment that I don't really want the goal? The achievement is going to be empty.
Next thing you know, you're living in the moment.
Lo and behold. And, my clients that I get now very often are super achievers that had been conditioned to believe that he who dies with the most toys wins. And they're on that journey and they're doing well on that journey. But they're like, I was expecting to feel happier and more fulfilled and more complete. What's missing? And now that's how that's oftentimes when I get the call or the email.
Yep.
Can I tell a short story?
I'm just going to throw out for the viewers before I'm going to come to you, Malcolm. Malcolm, I haven't forgotten you, but for those of you who are watching, if any of you have considered doing making resolutions or have made resolutions, just even just checking with yourself, where do you think your resolutions came from? Does it feel like they came from ego? Do you feel like you had to make some sort of promise to yourself but you didn't really feel it? Or was it a present check in with yourself and you're making a trajectory change because it is an expression of your true self? Let us know, and let us know if you're sort of tracking us in this conversation. Helps us. And you're welcome, of course, to ask us some questions if you're wondering about something we haven't talked about or you'd like clarity on something we have. Malcolm, go ahead, please.
All right. First, I don't know who Facebook user is, but it was logic and imagination can work together. Yes. Right. And in order to get to where you want to be, they have to work together. Right. Left brain, right brain have to work together in order for you to get there. Right. Now, where I was going to say is I want to tell a short story real quick. I'm going to try to make it quick. When I was in the military, right? While I was in the military, and I don't know if I told this or not, while I was in the military, I was a perfect soldier, right? There was nothing wrong with me. You know what I'm saying? If I go to the doctor, here, take these Motrin and march on, right? So whenever I went to the hospital or whenever I went to the doctor, that's what I was told. Here, take this. So when I got ready to retire from the military, right, went and did the whole full body checkup, and then the doctor herself was like, what? You know what I'm talking about? Like, you got this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, yada, yada, yada. Right? So, you know what I'm saying? I ran down the list of stuff that the woman told me that was wrong with me. And in my heart, I felt I needed to do something. I felt I needed to figure this out. I need to learn as much about this stuff as I can to help myself, right? With the depression, anxieties, PTSD. So that's how I got connected to neuro, right? That's how, this trying to find answers to help myself is how I got connected to neuro. It wasn't about me being a coach. It wasn't about me trying to save the world. It was about me trying to help myself, right? Honestly, right? So as time went on, so then I became a health coach. I went through a process of going through a health coaching course, right? To figure out how to help myself on the physical side of things, right? Yada, yada, yada. This is what led me to, because Bobby was talking about it earlier, right? The little things you accomplish, and then you don't really know why you have your own idea as to why you're doing it, but maybe the universe had a bigger plan for me, right? To be a coach, right? Because that was never a thought in my head. I didn't even know nothing about the coaching industry at that time. Like, I'm straight coming out the military. I have no idea about no coaching industry. Anyway, all that, right? You know, I thought it all was a scam. But anyway, as I went through these courses and learned more about myself, I thought, right, that, you know what, this is something that my people don't hear about. This is information we don't get. We don't get this information coming up where I came up at. Nobody tells us about the brain like that. Nobody, you know what I'm talking about? So this is information that I can give back to, you know what I mean? And I'm only emphasizing what Bobby was talking about earlier. Like, you never know. right? But if you follow your heart and you do what you got to do, the picture might be bigger than you think it is, right? You just got to go through the small stuff in order to, you know what I'm saying, to open your brain up to see it, right? That was the only point of the story.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. If you get nothing else other than asking those types of questions and using that as a catalyst for exploration, then that single step will make a massive difference. You know, knowing that your feelings aren't always, and in fact, I think never telling us about our circumstances. They're guidance and they're an invitation to go inside and explore.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that part lately, last few months, maybe, that I think intrinsic, like built into the feeling, are what I call the codes to freedom. So, like when you have a feeling about something, like I think about a goal and I get a certain inside myself, it's not generic, it's very specific. It's like you say to life, I want to lose 20 pounds. And life says, good, here's the thing that you need to deal with first. Like, and it's literally saying, like, but because it's uncomfortable, we think it's a problem, this feeling. But what I've come to see, and I've been seeing miraculous things with clients, is if we can just, what I call, just meet the feeling, like exactly as it is, it changes it. Like I say, it becomes like a door into something much deeper in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say, when you meet the feeling, somehow, whatever I call it, the codes that are in there literally are downloaded, like the information that life was trying to convey. It's like, really, to me, it's a perfect system. You ask and you're given, right? As the Bible, ask and ye shall receive. But we think, no. That's the old, the man, the flood comes and the man says, God will save me. You guys all know that story,
Yeah.
right? So he climbs on his roof and the helicopter comes and he says, no, God will save me. Then this happens. And finally he drowns and he gets in front of God. He says, why didn't you save me? He said, I sent you a helicopter and et cetera. You got to get on, you got to grab the ladder. So I just think that sometimes we miss that we are being supported, because we think it's supposed to look some other way than it does.
Yeah. There are sort of methods out there that embrace this idea of feelings as information. And Brandon Bays, I don't know if you've heard of Brandon Bays. I think I've mentioned her on a Posse Talk before. She does something called the journey. And every feeling that shows up is welcome that feeling. So it's sort of just a way of give space to it. Don't fight it. Don't resist it, but give space to it. Allow it to be there. Welcome it. Because then we can listen to it. What does it have to say? And we can do that with anything. Physical pain is the same. Oh, this hurts. Okay. What is that trying to tell you?
Mm-hmm.
And it may take a bit of practice to learn how to listen. And sometimes it'll be very clear what it is, and sometimes it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's learning to get present to it instead of fighting it. I don't want this feeling. I don't want this pain, right? That is essentially doing us a disservice. It's robbing us of valuable opportunity and information that can help us, like turning down the wrong way in the street. I mean, something's going to happen. That should have gone the other way. Pain is not necessarily a bad thing. Uncomfortable feelings are not necessarily bad things. They're information. And if we're open to them instead of resisting them, they can help us correct our trajectory on the way to achieving our goal. It's part of the plan. Include it and welcome it as part of the plan.
Everything about us is to keep us in a state of almost stasis, if you will, right? You know what I mean? So when it comes to meeting, guys are talking about meeting with that emotion, right? Having a meeting with it. Let's sit down and talk about why you're here, right? I agree with that 100%. But sometimes when it comes to fear, right, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to meet you, right? What I want to do is I want to walk with you and I want you to show me what you're talking about, right? You know what I mean? I want to challenge that fear. I want to challenge that phobia, right? And the reason being because that fear is not anything that may be of negative, that may be negative at the moment doesn't mean it's going to be negative forever, right? That negative is a part of that resistance we talked about earlier, right? And you have to deal with that negative. You have to deal with that resistance. You have to, right? There's no way around it. Resistance is a part of the process of learning, right? Resistance is the part of the process of growing. You feel what I'm saying? When the seed tries, when the tree tries to come out the ground, there's resistance, right? Then finally he works his way, he keeps going, and he pops through the ground. Now he starts to flourish and become a tree, correct? So there's resistance in anything. Even before that, everything that's going on inside of the seed has to fight its way out of the seed in order to grow, correct? So there's resistance in everything, and you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't quit on the resistance because the resistance is a part of the process, right? And the process is going to take time. The process is going to take money. The process is going to take whatever, right? In order for you to get through, in order for you to get there.
It's all information that is a gift for us. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the clock, gentlemen, and we are nearing the end of the hour. Is there anyone who would like to inform about anything? It's the beginning of the year, and many of us have offers or ways that we want to help people, maybe support them through the process of sticking to their resolutions. Anybody would like to share? Fred, I see you.
I'd be happy. I finally have something to share in this segment. Not being much of a planner. But I'm starting a group that I'm doing a second free intro to this group this Wednesday at 12 Central Time. So you can use that information below to contact me and I'll send you the Zoom link. And so the group is called the Self-Realization Network, and the intention of the group is very simply to give as much as I can about the kind of things that we talk about here and getting into some of the more specifics in the way that I work with people. Like I literally conceive of this as the Netflix of self-realization. It's going to be very inexpensive, this group. Good. And the intention is to offer a lot of value. The plan is to meet every other week for about an hour. And it's going to involve some teaching from either myself or a guest. Maybe one of our intrepid posse members will join me on some of these groups. It'll involve some direct experiential process to give us what I call a glimpse of our true self. And the last part, which I think is really cool, is harnessing the group energy, because I think there's an exponential effect when we all work together on something. And so the energy that we begin to generate in the glimpse and the being process, we're then going to harness together towards whatever outcome or goal we choose, to go for in the year or the month or whatever. So we're going to put it out there together as a group. And I think that there's something very powerful. I fully expect to see miracles coming out of this. And so the next free intro is this Wednesday at 12 Central. And after that, the current fee for the group, which I intend to keep this way, is probably $20 a month. So literally Netflix type fees.
So Malcolm coughed at a very opportune time. We didn't hear what you said about the price.
I said $2,000 a month. No, I'm just kidding. It was $20 a month, 20.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Thanks very much. Would anybody else like to share anything they're starting up or continuing from last year?
I'll share a little bit about my group if you're interested in exploring this more in-depthly. I have a group on Facebook now called Our Mindful Life. That is a place that has got some resources in there that if you are looking to live life more mindfully, more in touch with your true authentic self, there's many, many resources for you inside there. And I'm constantly adding new things in there as well. So you can find me at the emails there on the screen, transformative change or transformative@gmail.com, or transformativechange.com is my website, and on Facebook. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Malcolm, do you have anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like to offer? You don't have to.
I don't have an offer, right? It's just, saying, hey, Happy New Year to everybody, right? And, focus, right? Focus on, and, focus on defining who you are, what you want, right? Who, what, when, where, how, and why. If you can answer those questions, you can figure out a way. For me, there's nothing, I don't have anything really coming right now. I'm actually getting back into Facebook, social media, and all that. Once I get something going, next time maybe I'll talk about it or something. I don't know.
Super. Thanks very much. I will finish off by, thank you, just mentioning that I am actually opening up 5 coaching spots for people who would like to work on a program that I've developed that I call Becoming Invincible. Becoming Invincible. And we work together to get you standing in your sovereignty and actually manifesting and realizing your plans. So you get clear on your plans, and we actually put that into practice and make you a force to be reckoned with. So if this sounds interesting to you, my contact information is at the bottom of the screen. You can also find all of us in the free Presence Posse group on Facebook, and you're welcome to ask us questions and comment there on anything that you've heard or anything that you would actually like us to talk about, all things presence. We will be back in a week's time. We announced today that we are returning to our weekly schedule on Monday, an hour earlier than before. So we will still be coming on Monday, but our talks will be broadcast an hour earlier than our former time. We look forward to seeing you. And again, Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for your participation, comments, and questions. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.